I was just doing what I have to do to get my people out. This is what Tammy Cowins said to someone I know years ago when this paperwork first started to come out, because she was the point person if you wanted to talk to him, whoever you were, even people he knew from Detroit back in the day, because he was moving prison to prison, getting put in the hole. She was the point person for a lot of his phone calls. And now I have been sent a several hundred-page document. This is not the Frank's hearing that everybody's been looking at. The Frank's hearing references this document, amongst others. There's probably things that are sealed that'll never come out, but here we go. This was from Mr. Gatling's case, and this is about a hearing about DEA agent Keith Cromer and what went on with Fidel Suarez, Demetrius, Flenory, Cuffy Gatling. This hearing was caused by Cuffy Gatling's lawyers and them getting full discovery of everything that happened. Beginning with your name, it's a retracted CS1. And CS1, have you been appointed counsel in the case? Yes, ma'am. So she has a lawyer for this. And who's been appointed to represent you? Mr. Newton. Okay. I'm going to refer to you as CS1, okay? Okay. Is that fair to say? Okay. Let me start. In 2009, did you become a DEA confidential informant? Yes, sir. This is the woman who set up the show with 50 Cent. This is why you had a BMF show to watch, DEA confidential informant. And who was it that you contacted prior to becoming a confidential informant? Jack Harvey. Mr. Harvey is employed where? At the time, he was a DEA agent for Atlanta. He was the one that oversaw the BMF case. So she reached out to him because she was dating a guy named Terry Bernard White that ended up getting convicted of some reefer conspiracy, and she was afraid she was going to be mixed up in the money laundering. Who was your handler? Jack Harvey. What was the case you were involved in? Terry Bernard White. How long was it that you worked with Mr. Harvey on the case? Over a year. At some point, did Mr. Harvey inform you after Terry White was taken into custody that you were going to be put up for an award? Before he was retiring, he acknowledged that. And did he tell you what it was going to be? No, he did not. He just indicated it. But there comes a time when you went from working for Mr. Harvey to working for somebody else. Yes, sir. When was that time period? After I received a message from Jack Harvey that he was retiring, then I received a call from the Atlanta DEA asking me to stay on board. And who was that call from? Keith Cromer. And what was Mr. Cromer's position? He was with the DEA Atlanta. Same group Mr. Harvey was in? That's right. At some point, you were introduced to Mr. Cromer. Yes, I was. And who were you supposed to work with in relation to Mr. Cromer? David Fred. It was several. David Fred, Tony Mara. And you're talking about agents? Agents in the group? Yes, agents in the group. And who was the controlling agent? David at one point, Fred at one point, Tony at one point. So Keith Cromer worked as part of a group, and she met the controlling agent as well. What were you told by either Mr. Keith Cromer or other controlling agents that you were supposed to do? Basically, they would set me up for Hispanics. That I would either go pick up money or drugs and bring it back or make phone calls. So she was going to be, reading between the lines, posed as the female runner for black drug dealers making purchases or turning in money for cartel targets. And this was sometime in 2011. That seems about right. What was the promise to you with respect to your activity? Well, when we met to discuss would I stay on board, I asked what I would have to do. And I was told just what I'd said about Hispanics. And then I said, okay. And if I can get something big, and Cromer said, you'll get a lot of money. And I said, can I get Demetrius Flenory's time cut? And he said, we can work on that. And you mentioned Demetrius Flenory's name to Mr. Cromer. Yes, I did. So at this point, according to her testimony, she, after turning in her ex-boyfriend Terry White and working that case, and there'll be more about that later, she was called back and said, hey, you want to keep working with us and setting up Hispanics, because DEA wants to make big cases in Atlanta. If you didn't know, is a hub like Chicago. Atlanta was a hub. Possibly because of BMF. When BMF went down, the cartels knew how much sales they had been getting out of Atlanta, and they sent replacements there. So she didn't approach them on behalf of, she didn't call them up and say, hey, I want to set up coffee for a big Meech, per this testimony. And you mentioned Demetrius Flenory's name to Mr. Cromer. Yes, I did. And it was about perhaps helping him out. Yes, for a time reduction. Did they indicate that you would have to testify against anybody? No. You were told you wouldn't have to testify? That's correct. They told me they would be deported back to Mexico once they did the drug bust with the Hispanics, and I wouldn't have to testify.